I'm going to be going over 15 tips and tricks on how to quit marijuana, just like a video game. Whoever said weed wasn't addictive was never addicted to weed. Are you having a hard time quitting weed? Well, I had a hard time quitting weed myself. It was the hardest thing I ever did, but I eventually stopped. If you watch this video, you may find some reasons to help you quit weed as well. I smoked every day for 15 years, and now I have 10 years straight of not smoking anything. If I can do it, you can do it too. Number 1. This is a problem. I recognize that I have a problem. I knew I had a problem years before. I just didn't think there was any way that I was ever going to quit. Number 2, I tried quitting. I tried quitting on my own a few times. There was even a time that I drove up to Yosemite, which is about 5 hours away, and left all my weed behind. I was at the hotel for about 2 hours watching TV, and I was so miserable. I drove all the way back to Los Angeles, picked up my weed, and drove all the way back the next day. This is how I knew that I don't think I can quit on my own, or I knew I couldn't quit on my own. Number 3, rehab. I checked myself into a rehab. It was actually really successful. I used my Medi-Cal insurance, and I went to this county rehab where they sent all the people who were trying to avoid jail time. The people there were trying to quit alcohol and heroin and meth. Even though I couldn't really relate to the other people's addictions, I did get my first exposure to 12-step programs, and I actually learned that there was a program just for marijuana addicts. Now, these are some of the things I learned from the 12-step program. Number 4, no casual use. I didn't actually want to quit completely. I just wanted to learn to control my smoking. I didn't want to smoke every day. But maybe, maybe if I can take a drag on the weekends or at parties, even though I never went to parties, maybe this is how I could smoke weed. Once I came to the realization that I can't just use casually, then the urge to smoke wasn't that bad or wasn't as strong. It didn't go away completely, but a lot of the cravings come because I think, oh, well, maybe just one more time, maybe I can smoke one more time.
No! No!
Number 5, flush the weed down the toilet. Number 5, flush the weed down the toilet. Now, maybe if you have a vape pen, you shouldn't be flushing it down the toilet. Pretty much, I had to get rid of everything. And at that point, I didn't really have that much. I just had my weed and maybe a really cheap smoking utensil like a bong, a very cheap bong, or maybe a pipe that I used to smoke while I was driving. And this was a big deal because I'd never flushed any weed down the toilet. I'd always had to smoke it down until the very last leaf. Number 6, don't isolate. This was hard because isolating was my favorite activity. Just me, myself, and my computer. Going to 12-step meetings helped me get out of my cave. When I was in a room full of other people trying not to get high, for some reason I didn't want to get high either. The moment I was alone, though, the struggle began. It even started the second I got into my car after a meeting. Number 7, call someone. I called someone when I felt the urge to smoke, or even when I was just really depressed and lonely, which would then make me want to smoke. This is where 12-step rooms come in handy because there is a room full of people who understand what I'm going through, and they're okay if I give them a call and tell them I'm just like super crazy right now. Please help me. And we'll just talk about what's going on, or just like, hey, seen any good movies lately? And I'll be like, no, I don't watch movies. I only watch anime. And after a while, I'm like, I don't even feel like smoking anymore. Wow. Thank you so much for letting me call you. Number 8, wait 10 minutes. No matter how strong the urge is, I told myself if I can just wait 10 minutes, then I won't smoke for 10 minutes. It's a lot easier to break things down into small chunks rather than thinking, oh, I can't smoke the whole day. What am I going to do? Let's just get through this 10 minutes because the urge isn't there the whole day. It's these certain points that things just kind of like all come together and I have to smoke, and those are the times I just have to push through. Number 9, listen to guided meditations. My brain was going a mile a minute, and other than going to those 12-step meetings, pretty much I wanted to smoke. And so when I put on a guided meditation, my brain would slow down for a minute and I could focus on something other than myself. I would lie down, listen to an hour of guided meditations, and probably end up dozing off for a bit. Number 10 is keep doing what's successful. If I could stay sober for one day, then the next day I just have to do the exact same thing I did the day before. And little by little, I added more and more tools into my arsenal of things to do to stay sober. Number 11, recognize triggers. I didn't always feel the urge to smoke, although it felt like I did. So when I started to pay attention to when the urges came, it was usually in conjunction with somewhat of a stressful situation or any situation. Whether it was getting out of bed, having to leave the house, go to the grocery store, do laundry, go to work, come home from work. These were all situations that I'd be like, oh, this is a perfect time to smoke, or I really want to smoke right now. I can't deal with this very normal life activity. I learned to be uncomfortable, and little by little, the uncomfortableness went away, and it was just life. Number 12 is feelings don't last. Good times or bad times, the feelings change. If I'm having a bad day, I often think, oh, this is how the bad day is going to be for the rest of my life, and it's never going to end. Or when I'm having a good day, I'm like, wow, I'm having a good day. This is how it's going to be for the rest of my life. I'm never going to have another bad day, and the next day's a bad day. Or even a little later in the day, it becomes a bad day. That's okay. I learned to just be with my feelings and process them.
Feelings, nothing more than feeling. Trying to forget.
Number 13, journal. I wrote about how I was feeling in a journal. The best part about the exercise is not only that it helps you get out of your head for a moment by writing in the journal. Whenever I'm having a bad day in the future, I can look back and think, wow, this really wasn't as bad as it was a few days before or a few weeks before, or how really bad it was on that first day or first week of trying to get sober. I can look back and think, wow, what a crazy person I was. And I had no actual frame of reference for my current day. And then I can think, wow, today's actually not that bad. It's just kind of sucks, but it's not complete and utter misery. Number 14, determination. In the end, it came down to how much I wanted it. I had to think of it as a life or death situation, because I was basically the Walking Dead, or else I wouldn't want to quit in the first place because I really love smoking weed, but it had ruined my life and it had made me miserable. It's such an interesting paradox, which is why it's so hard to quit smoking weed. Number 15, I just had to trust in the process. All these tools or tips are just short-term fixes. The long-term fix was in completely reinventing myself in the way I thought about things, the way I thought about myself, and the way I thought about other people in the world. Weed was just a band-aid for those things. I had to face a lot of childhood trauma and adult trauma, and I used weed to self-medicate. I will be posting about different things that help me stay sober, and if any of these things struck a bell, please leave a comment so that I can try to connect with you all. And if this was helpful in any way, please like and subscribe to the channel so I can be encouraged to post more things and hopefully be of service not only to you but also to myself.
Rolling down on my face,
and I hope you have a good day.
trying to forget my feelings of love. Feel